Setting the context for this talk. So when Harkirat reached out to me for this talk, I was ideating with him what kind of topic we should pick up, right? And I've done a bunch of talks in the past. So his recommendation was that given there is a lot of focus on profitability, right, and becoming EBITDA positive, right, and a lot of organizations are making efforts in that direction. Why don't we pick something that kind of explores different facets of that, right? So that's the topic that I've picked up for today, and I'll kind of show it from two different lenses, right? So I will show it from the different aspects of how you monetize internet products, right? So the first part is focused on if you are an ads-led player, how do you kind of crack the monetization code? How do you kind of scale it up? How do you make it work? How do you scale your ad revenues to the next level? And that is a very hot topical content right now because every company out there is now trying to build a ad engine, right? And basically making ads a pillar of their monetization strategy for the simple reason that whatever money you make through ads is a direct sort of upside to your bottom line, right? Other than maybe some of the development costs and server costs, pretty much whatever you make is pure cash. It directly comes to your bottom line. There's no cost of goods sold. There's no cost of servicing the product, etc., right? So first part is focused on that. Second part is basically focused on some of the other aspects of monetization. So let's say you are a pure play internet company, an e-commerce company. How do you try out a few different levers that are available to you to basically if today you are, let's say, EBITDA minus 10%, minus 15%, how do you get to EBITDA neutral and EBITDA positive? What kind of levers are available to you in a pure e-commerce context minus ads, right? So ads is one pillar, and just pure e-commerce from an e-commerce lens, how can you sort of make more money off your users? And then basically, how do you make sure that the other costs that you're incurring are reduced, etc., so on and so forth, right? So I'll just cover both aspects. So those are the two case studies for today. So I'll quickly sort of dive in. So Arkirat already covered my background again quickly. So currently I'm a director of product at MakeMeter. So broadly, the focus of my work has been on mobile products and AdTech. So you could almost say that 50% of my career has been pure play mobile products, and 50% of my career has been spent on the AdTech journey across InMovie and Hotstar. So Hotstar, InMovie, and Goldman Sachs are the other companies. I've also worked at Nokia in the past. And funnily enough, I've done a fair bit of online marketing. So 1 year in my career, I've also done digital marketing. Then I've done product. And the companies that I've worked for have been very, very heavy on analytics. In fact, my first stint at MakeMeter, we didn't used to have any analyst or we didn't have a battery of analysts to support us. The PM was responsible for analytics as well, right? So I have a lot of experience doing hands-on analytics as well, right? So it's kind of, it comes together nicely as a proper 360 where I've done digital marketing, where I've done product, where I've done analytics as well, right? So, okay, let's move on. So, like I said, the first pillar I'm going to talk about is, or rather, the first case study is what I'm going to talk about is AdTech, and I want when you guys today sort of wrap up this session, I want you guys to leave with some interesting takeaways that you probably, hopefully, would not have thought of in an AdTech context. So before we get into AdTech, I'll just quickly sort of lay the stage, right? So what are the main actors in an AdTech context? Obviously, there is the advertiser who wants to advertise. So example of an advertiser would be a PNG, a Flipkart, or an Audi. And again, when I'm talking AdTech here, I'm only talking digital ads, right? So PNG trying to run some ads on let's say YouTube or on Google or on Facebook, right? Or on Hotstar, right? Similarly, Flipkart trying to run ads, Audi trying to run ads. On the other side is what we known as what we call a publisher. If you were not aware, the place where these ads are run are called publishers, right? Why are these called publishers? Because basically you're publishing ads, right? You're publishing content and you're publishing ads as well, right? So advertiser wants to run ads. Publisher is who is looking to monetize his digital property, be it a website or an app, by running ads on their website or their app, right? And examples of these could be, so obviously, let's talk about some classic publishers, right? So in an Indian context, who would these publishers be? Obviously, all the content websites and apps, right? So Times of India, NDTV, money control, right? So their monetization strategy is twofold, right? Obviously, they try to sell subscriptions, but that's a very limited percentage of their user base. The primary way they are making money is basically running ads on their properties, right? And obviously then the big daddies, the Facebooks and Googles of the world, right? So those are publishers. So that's how the pairing happens. Obviously, there's a lot of intermediation in between. Someone coming from AdTech space would say that Anurag, you have kind of oversimplified this, but I just wanted to kind of keep that picture simple and then slowly build it up, right? Okay. So we talked about advertisers and we talked about publishers. Now let's talk about the type of digital advertising, right? What are the large buckets of digital ads that are run, right? Anyone wants to venture a guess or already has experience? Would you want to talk about the big large buckets of ads, or maybe wants to write up in chat?
Arun has something to say. Arun, over to you.
Yeah.
I think, at least from the experience that I have, display ads, I think the biggest ones. At least maybe now, the banner. When I say display ads, are banner ads basically, right?
Yeah.
When a Google search happens, there is a big, sponsored link that comes, or on when you're seeing a YouTube video, there's a pop-up that comes which says that crash. Now basically they are taking a full screen ad, but previously YouTube used to have that, bar ke upar, they used to have
Yeah.
that. I think those are that's the major thing, and there are also text ads, the link ads that you see,
Correct.
kind of, right, which basically they don't explain ad much, but they just say click on this link to basically go and see what exactly is kind of. Like those are text
Yes.
kind of an ad, right? I think these are the major two digital advertising ads that typically I know.
And by the way, those of you who don't know, Arun is one of my ex-colleagues. In fact, we are very, very close. I'm not sure why he has joined the session, but glad to see him here. Thank you, Arun, for joining. And yeah, so obviously you have covered it, but Matt, let me kind of give another lens to this digital advertising space, right? Uh, so one of the key buckets or one of the large buckets of digital advertising is what we call as brand advertising. What is brand advertising? Brand advertising is basically what we are trying to do. Sorry, some issue with the animation that I set up, but brand advertising is basically where we are not trying to directly elicit a reaction from the user straight up then and there, right? So what we're trying to do is we are basically trying to build awareness and recall with this consumer segment, right? So what exactly is brand ads? So imagine you are seeing a video ad on YouTube, right? There is no CTA out there. Yes, there is a CTA out there, but 99% of the users, the outbound CTR is very, very low. Primarily, the whole goal of running those video ads on YouTube is to basically drive awareness for a particular brand, right? So let's say I'm trying to basically I'm a new D2C brand for shoes, right? And I'm trying to kind of make my brand drive my brand awareness for a set of users where I feel this brand might resonate well. I'm trying to drive brand salience, right? So I'm not trying to directly elicit a reaction from the user. I'm not saying that, hey, shop now, shop now, shop now, right? I'm just trying to make you generally brand aware. And so that is called brand advertising. The typical vehicle of brand advertising is video ads, right? Because video ads let you narrate a story, right? For example, in Hotstar case, when you are watching live matches, most of you are basically, and let's say you are watching it on your mobile phones, most of you are mostly watching it in landscape mode. So in landscape mode, I'm not really trying to kind of interrupt you watching the match play, right? I'm just trying to kind of in between, I'm running some video ads to basically help you make aware of a specific brand or a specific product, right? So that's called brand advertising. Performance advertising is the other large bucket. Performance advertising, exactly what Arun kind of called out, is where you're trying to directly get the user to do some action. What are those actions? For example, I'm trying to get a user to install an app, right? I'm showing you a PhonePe ad, and directly under that, I have a CTA with saying install now, right? And then you tap on it, and then you basically end up on the Play Store or the App Store, and you install that particular particular app, right? So, so app install ads are performance ads, right? For example, in a lot of case, I might even be trying to get you to do a transaction, right? So, for example, uh, let's say I'm running a Myntra ad, right? And SEM ads are actually the Google search engine marketing ads. The Google search ads are a great example of performance ads where you are directly trying to sort of run an ad on Google search, right? And they are text based. And then basically what I'm trying to do is get you to directly click on that ad and arrive on my website. So maybe Myntra is running an ad saying that, hey, shop now on Myntra. And then basically you click on the ad, end up on the Myntra website and and then you buy a product, right? So this is what we call as a performance ad, right? Because I'm trying to directly get you to perform something, right? So this is again a very large bucket of advertiser spend because a lot of ad dollars go into app install ads and e-com and basically driving visits to their website, right? And to their app, and then basically get the user to do something, right? So, like I said, drive some action immediately. Either you are trying to do a cost per download kind of thing. So basically, an advertiser is trying to run an ad basis cost per download, or a CPX, right? Cost per transaction, cost per order. It could be cost per shopper. Like you are trying to get the user to do a search, so cost per search, cost per order, so on and so forth, right? So that's called performance. So that's again a very large bucket in the digital ad space. The third bucket, again, it's a performance bucket, but it's a sub bucket of it, is what we call as retargeting ads. The user visited your website or app, dropped off, did not complete what you intended the user to do, typically placing an order, right? And then you basically try and retarget that same user when he visits other websites or apps, right? And so retargeting is kind of a sub bucket, is actually a sub bucket of performance only. But the reason why I called it out separately was because there are a lot of ad tech companies out there that specialize only in retargeting. Retargeting is actually big business. A lot of companies, you might have seen that you have probably visited a website or an app, right? And let's say you went to Myntra, or you went to Nykaa, or you went to some other website, Flipkart, and you would find that you go to some other website, maybe you end up on ndtv.com, you'll find a Myntra ad chasing you from the side, right? So retargeting is actually a very, very big bucket again. A lot of ad tech companies, ad tech stacks actually focus on this exclusively. So that's why I put it out separately. Like I said, retarget customers who came to your website or app, right? So these are the large three buckets. This is how the ad dollars are kind of split, right? Okay. Now let's talk about the holy grail of advertising, right? So how do you become a very successful ads player, right? So let's say, and when I say you are trying to become a very successful ads player, is basically you are effectively a publisher, right? So I'm looking at it from a publisher's lens. There are a lot of intermediaries also. I can name a lot of ad tech jargon. I can talk about supply side partners. I can talk about ad exchanges. I can talk of demand side partners. But forget all of that, right? Just from a very simple perspective, if I am a publisher, right? Like I outlined it in my first slide, right? I'm a publisher. I'm trying to make money by running ads on my website, my app. How do I scale it? How do I become a serious ads player, right? What is it that I need to do, right? So if I have to answer this question effectively, what do I need to do? I need to look at it from an advertiser's lens, right? Ultimately, if I solve the advertiser's problems, they're going to come flock to my platform and basically spend a lot of ad rupees or dollars or euros with me, right? How do I do it, right? So the first thing is obviously audiences. When I'm looking to run digital ads, I'm looking for very focused audiences to show my ads, right? That's the whole promise of being on digital and not on, let's say, mass media on television or radio, right? So I want to target very, very specific audiences, right? What kind of audiences? For example, I am a brand which sells baby products, right? So I'm trying to target new mothers, right? I'm a brand which sells a lot of electronics. So I'm trying to target people who are really, really passionate about electronics, who probably like buy a new gadget every 3 months, right? I'm a shoes brand. I'm trying to find audiences out there who have the money to spend and who are like really, really crazy about shoes. They're sneakerheads. They really want to buy like a new pair of shoes every 2 months, right? So every brand is operating in a certain space and they want to target very specific kind of audiences, right? And sometimes these audiences, it's not just simple age and gender, right? That I'm trying to target women who are greater than 30 years of age or between 25 to 34 years of age. That's basic targeting. The more advanced targeting I can offer to my users, the better it is. So again, related to this is the question, why do you think Google is such an amazing ad behemoth, right? They are able to print billions of dollars through their ad engine. Why do you think Google is such a large ad behemoth and no one else is able to come close, right? So obviously the obvious answer is that they have a lot of data. But what is the slightly more non-obvious answer? Why do you think Google ads work so well for the advertisers? What is the basic difference? Anyone? Anyone wants to venture a guess?
Harita has something to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to take a guess. As far as I understand, it's because the ads are shown to users who search for it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the user is already showing an intent then and there.
Yes.
That idea is very topical in his mind. So obviously search ads work so much better than what Arun was pointing to, display ads, right? So let's say you are browsing on Facebook, right? And I have some kind of idea that okay, this user is a Bangalore user, a tier one user, right? And I have some kind of interest data because we tend to kind of expose a lot of our information to Facebook. We tend to declare our interest, we tend to declare our relationship status, so on and so forth. But end of the day, I don't know whether you have active intent to buy something. So if I show you a shoe product there, you may click, you may not click. But when you are searching, you're coming to Google and actually searching then and there that, hey, I'm looking for a nice pair of shoes, a nice pair of running shoes, for example, right? You have told me what you need then right there, right? So obviously the Google search ads have far better CTRs and click-through rates and far better conversion rates compared to any display ad, compared to any kind of machine learning data science. You put in whatever you want to do, but you will never be able to beat search ads, right? So search, that is the primary reason why search engines are so powerful, and search engine based ads are so powerful because it allows the marketer or the advertiser to target the user when the need is at the forefront, right? So that's like that's primarily, like, even if Google didn't have the best machine learning engineers or the best data science guys going, just that direct search intent is good enough to tell you what you need to show to that user, right? So, and that is how Google became Google, right? So
We
that's the
have
primary reason.
Bhargava wanted to do something. Bhargava, over to you.
Anurag, even if
Yeah.
I see from the lens of the distribution that Google has got, because
Yeah.
even the same intent Bing search has it, right? Whether it was on mobile or on desktop,
Mhm.
even it's part of a distribution what Google has got it. Can I assume in the same manner?
Sorry, I couldn't understand your point. Can you just repeat it?
So if I have Google has got its high volume of intent searches because of its distribution, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, yes. So foremost, obviously, see, you can become, and then that becomes a question that how can you become a serious publisher, right? Eventually, Google is also a publisher. The reason why Google is a publisher is because they have so much traffic going to their properties, right? For example, if I had to give you a slightly more different example, so for example, only if you are Times Internet in India is when you have like millions of DAOs and MAOs, then you can think of making money through ads, right? If you don't have any traffic coming through, if you don't have any distribution, then obviously, like, the first and foremost, the first thing, a publisher can become a serious publisher only if they have serious amounts of traffic. That is why Hotstar was a serious player in video ad space, right? Because when an advertiser is trying to allocate video ad spends, right, they are saying that okay, there is YouTube, obviously I'm going to spend a lot of money there. There is Facebook, which allows a lot of video formats, so obviously I'm going to spend a lot of money there. I will allocate some part of my ad budget to Hotstar only if I feel they're a serious player. They attract a lot of traffic, they get a lot of users, and if I if I have to spend my ad budget there, I'm looking for like millions of impressions, right? So until unless you have got distribution, you cannot be. So the first thing, obviously, if you're trying to make money through ads, is first you have to have the traffic. If you don't have it, then obviously that's not going to work for you, right? So that's true. That's obviously true. But obviously, the second part of it is the search ads. If you look at the operating performance of different kinds of ad types, you'll always find that search ads as a channel will always work far better than display channel would ever work, right? So
Got it.
uh, Yeah, so that is what I was referring. The second big holy grail of advertising is interesting kinds of formats, and I'll touch upon that in a subsequent slide. The next slide after this basically explains what I mean. But basically, advertisers are always looking for interesting formats to narrate their story well, right? For example, they're looking for formats. If a publisher can build a format which gets very high click-through rates because it is able to attract the user's attention, obviously that will work better for the advertiser. And a lot of cases, advertisers are also looking for interesting combinations, right? So, for example, an advertiser might be looking for, hey, for example, let's say I'm Audi, right? Audi, and I go to Hotstar and tell them, ki, hey, not only I want you to run a video ad which explains the entire Audi story, but I also want a companion alongside the video ad, which is basically a lead gen form where user can immediately sign up with his details and book a test drive, right? So you have the primary ad, which is the video ad, but then you have a companion ad, which is a lead gen form that opens alongside, where so while the user is watching the video, he can also fill in the details and immediately sort of immediately show his interest in basically booking a test drive, right? So format innovation is really important, especially if you're trying to compete with the likes of Facebook and Google. Obviously, format. For example, if you look at Facebook, they offer so many kinds of ad formats. I think there are like 30, 40 odd ad formats, right? So ad format innovation continuously is very critical. That's again, if you want to become a serious publisher, you have to think from the lens of an advertiser. Like the example I told you is a great sort of fit for automobile companies, right? Where the video is showing the beautiful vehicle and it is getting test driven on like really nice roads, getting driven on very nice roads, and just alongside is the lead gen form, right? So you have to think vertical wise. You have to figure out what are the needs of the advertisers and accordingly do that ad format innovation. That's the second bit. The third bit is obviously supply, right? Which is what we touched upon right now. If you have to be a serious player, you have to be getting traffic in multi-millions of DAOs and MAUs, right? If you're not getting it, obviously you will never become a serious player, because like I said, when the advertiser is looking to allocate ad dollars, they are only looking at players who have serious traffic, right? I don't want to go and basically spread my ad spend across like 500 different chunnu munnu websites or chunnu munnu apps, right? That I'm looking for publishers who have a lot of supply, who can deliver me the kind of scale that I'm looking for. I'm looking for like millions of impressions or millions of clicks, right? And also I'm looking for audiences on top of it. So obviously supply scale is really important. So is the publisher, can he scale, right? And the final bit is operating metrics. What I mean by operating metrics, similar to how we look at the funnels, right? So let's say I'm a e-commerce player. Let's say I'd make my trip. How do I look at the performance of my website? I try to find out of, let's say, 100 users who search for a flight on my website, how many of them eventually end up booking a flight, right? What we call as the conversion, right? So again, ad format also behaves like a small funnel only. You look at how many impressions were shown to the user. Did he click? So what kind of click-through rates did you get? Right. So after clicking on the ad, when he ended up on the website, did he actually do the intended sort of the desired action or the intended action that I wanted him to take basis the ad, right? So all those things. For example, let's say PhonePe is trying to just to give a very clear example. Let's say PhonePe is trying to run an app install ad, right? So eventually they're looking for app installs. If the app install is not happening, right? So you showed an ad for PhonePe, then the user has to click on the ad, then he will end up on the Play Store, then he has to actually install the app, right? So those metrics, right? So basically click-through rates on ads, and then post-visit conversion, right? So click to install conversion, all those operating metrics are important. If you're not able to deliver good operating metrics, what will happen is you will show a lot of impressions, but you will not get commensurate installs out of it, right? Which means if PhonePe has come to you and said that, you know what, I'm looking for a cost per download of, let's say, 50-60 rupees, eventually you have to pass that money to the publisher also, right? So eventually you have to make money as a publisher also, right? So if it is taking lot many more impressions to deliver and install, that means you will not be able to make a whole lot of money, right? Because if the CTRs and click to install are low, that means if earlier if your CTRs were good, maybe on 100 impressions you were able to get a download, but because your CTRs are poor and your click to install appear, now you are, instead of 100 you are showing 10,000 impressions, right? So or your supply is getting wasted, and hence the amount of money that you are going to make is less, because now only per 1,000 impressions you are going to get 50 rupees from PhonePe. If your ads were better and for 100 impressions you were able to deliver an install, so every 100 impressions you would have received 50 rupees from PhonePe, right? So the operating metrics are very, very important. And when you look at AdTech, you also have to look at it like a mini funnel, like I pointed out, and you have to optimize those metrics. It's like a funnel only, right? So all these things are important when you're trying to become a serious player. If you don't solve for the operating metrics, impressions will get wasted and you will not make the kind of money that you're looking for. All right. So like I said, deliver the commensurate cost per download or cost per transaction that you're looking, which the advertiser is looking for. Right, and just quickly cover the formats, right? So for example, these are some examples of how Hotstar did fair bit of format innovation. So you can see that the video ad is playing for Myntra, where there's a brand narrative that is being showcased, saying that Myntra is a great fashion destination, etc. And just below it, there's a shop now button also with some carousel also getting opened up, right, which is showcasing some marquee products from their website, right? So to kind of elicit user interest and get the user to eventually click on shop now and get to the website, right? So this kind of format innovation is required. It's not like, oh, I'm running video ads, so I only have to run video. No, you can pair a companion with the video ad also to make it even more exciting for the user, and hence more exciting for your advertiser who will come to your platform to spend money and not maybe go to YouTube, right? Similarly, this is another example of a video with a carousel companion ad. So the standard industry lingo is companion ad. So you show the video and then alongside there's a companion running. So for example, there's an in-house ad that they're showing for Hotstar Premium, right? They're trying to convert users to subscribe for Hotstar Premium. So obviously they're showing the video uh, for this entire Avengers series. And then alongside they're showing this carousel to basically get the user excited about all the different titles from the Avengers series that they have, right? So that's how you do format innovation and get advertisers excited. Okay, so let's go back, let's circle. So we talked about the holy grail of advertising. We talked about formats. Now, so from this, let's talk about what are the key challenges as a publisher, right? So like a publisher, we have already covered those who are trying to make money by running ads on their website app. So what's the first big challenge? The first big challenge is fill rate. So let's say you're a large publisher like Hotstar, right, who has tons and tons of video ad space, right?
Anurag, sorry to interrupt. I think some people have
Yeah,
questions.
yeah,
You
go
want
ahead.
to take them now?
Yeah, I think we have two questions. From one is Shakun and then Sareen. Shakun, over to you first.
Yeah.
Sure. Hi. So Anurag, just one question. So when you're talking about running and then those CTAs are really good, let's say for those ads, right? So and then you show that Myntra itself is showing those clicks and then the redirection happens. But as a publisher, they also, let's say I'm talking about YouTube, right? So they also have their own targets of, let's say user is watching that video and then they have a session duration, right? They would have their own matrices, and if they show this ad, there might be a chance, if it is a good one, then it might be a chances that the user actually leaves the journey and then goes to this thing and then doesn't come back to the video itself, right? I understand.
That's a great question.
Does it
Yeah.
matter to them, or the chances are like the numbers are so small it doesn't care? And how does it and second is that from the content, because the person who has paid, I mean the whose video is running, right? So they themselves might be, they would also be getting impacted, right? Because there are a lot of redirections from their video.
Fair, great question. So it depends on what your, so that basically leans on what your strategy is, right? So so a lot of companies, for example, Hotstar, primarily used to lean towards brand ads, right? Exactly for the reasons that you outlined, saying that, hey, my job is to basically do brand advertising on my platform. I cannot get into performance advertising because if I start adding a lot of CTAs as a companion to the ad, or I try getting into driving app installs, a lot of these users will end up redirecting from my property and may never come back, right? So that impacts my watch time, that impacts the amount of time the user spends on my platform, right? So all those kinds of conundrums are there. I'm not denying the fact that those kinds of challenges are not there, right? it's always a fine balance between how much you want to monetize, right? There is a basic conundrum in sort of monetizing your product through ads is that even at the end of the day, ads are interruptive. Ads interrupt your flow. Ads to some extent irritate the users, right? So you have to navigate that balance really carefully, right? So Hotstar, for example, used to lean towards safety, saying that most of the ads, uh, so while I showed you these examples, we know that most of the content is being watched in landscape mode. So in landscape mode, in any case, very unlikely that the user is going to, you don't have space to basically show these CTAs or companions in any case, right? So 90% of the cases, the user is watching in landscape mode only, right? And then you know that since he's watching in landscape mode, very unlikely he will just watch the video and then just move on to the next bit of content, right? So Hotstar could never scale their performance business. Hotstar was never a serious business in performance. Hotstar was largely a brand ads player only, right? But let's say you are not Hotstar, right? I'll give you a different example, right? So let's say you are not Hotstar, you are, let's say, a gaming app, right? And lots of large gaming apps, basically, one big engine of monetization for them is ads, right? And they run a lot of app install ads, and they are fine running those app install ads, and they're fine kind of tapping into the ad dollars that come from performance budgets of different advertisers, because they know that inherently their uh, ads are basically, they hook you in, right? So even if you basically see an app install ad and you click on it, you end up on the Play Store, you download the app and you download that particular app that you, the ad that you saw, eventually you're going to come back to the game because the game has already gotten you hooked up, right? So it depends. It's a fine balance, right? So you have to look at what your retention rates are when you are running ads, what kind of retention rates you are seeing on your app. Is the user coming back to your app or not, right? And accordingly kind of tread that carefully. So I completely agree with you, but in a lot of cases, I know. For example, I'll give you another simple example. In Hotstar case, let's say you're watching a series, right? So let's say you are watching Game of Thrones, and Game of Thrones was exclusively available on Hotstar only back in the day, right? And you're watching it, you're binge watching it. Now, even if I throw you an app install ad, I know that even if you kind of get excited, you click or you do a shop, now you watch that product. I have driven what I needed to drive for the advertiser. I've already driven a website visit, which counts as a visit. So I'll get some dollars or rupees from the advertiser. But I also know that given that you're binge watching the series and this content is available only on Hotstar, you will come back because you are hooked into that entire content piece that I'm showing you, right? So you will come back and you will watch, you will resume the content from where you were, right? So all those kinds of nuances sort of come into the picture when you're trying to do performance advertising for a lot of publishers. Again, I'm not saying that performance advertising is a good fit for all kinds of publishers. Performance advertising might not be a great fit for Hotstar, but performance advertising is a great fit for trying to drive clicks, CTAs, app installs. It's a great fit for, let's say, gaming publishers, right? So the strategy, you have to consciously think of the strategy. You have to consciously look at your retention rates. You have to look at what your user journeys are looking like when they're interacting with the ads, and then accordingly craft the ad strategy that you're looking for. If that answers your question.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
What was the second
Yeah,
question?
we have one more. We have, I think Sareen want to ask question before we come to the Arun, right? Sareen,
Yeah.
over to you if you have a question.
I had the same question as Shakun, so that was
All
answered. Thanks.
I have one question, Anurag. So maybe the AdTech industry in India typically is in a state where now it's nearly the formats are matured or basically are standardized, right? If you can see, kind of, we can see 4 or 5 types of formats, be it whatever it is.
Yeah.
Do you see a new format typically coming in? Because one good example, just to to the point that someone asked previously, right? In China, typically when a person sees a influencer ad, for example, right? A person basically, an influencer, you're seeing a short video or whatever on TikTok, and person basically is endorsing a product. You have a one-click checkout, right? Basically, you don't move away from the app, see the video.
Correct.
Do you see those kind of formats coming in India, growing in, like what is typically the new formats that typically come in? for advertisers to basically play around going forward?
So Arun, I don't have a very, very clear good answer to that, but all I can say is that, for example, like the exact example that you came up with, right? So when I was at InMobi, Apple APIs didn't used to allow you to kind of do app install staying within the app context itself, right? So they didn't have those APIs. And so for every time I had to drive an app install, I had to take the user to the app store, right? Later on, Apple basically came up with their APIs, which was kind of in-store kind of view, in situ kind of view, right? So what InMobi did was we integrated those APIs and we improved our app install ads to say that user does not even have to leave the game that they were playing to basically install the other app that they were looking for, right? So we made those improvements, and obviously we saw good improvements in our what we used to call it conversion per thousand impressions, right? We used to call it CVM. So conversion per thousand impressions is obviously the most important metric when you're trying to look at app install efficiency, and that improved significantly, right? So the specific technical term for that particular integration was called SK store, right? So there's always something or the other coming up, right? So for example, I can give you if you want really zany examples, right? So I launched two very interesting ad formats at InMobi, right? So one interesting ad format that I launched at InMobi, because see, most of the performance business and the publishing business in the AdTech world, this a lot of people don't know, comes from gaming industry. Why? Because gaming studios are continuously launching new games, right? Because obviously once you launch a game, obviously over a period of time, your mouse start dipping, your retention rates start dipping. You have to keep improving your current game, or you have to keep launching new games, right? So gaming companies are actually one of the biggest ad spenders when it comes to performance ads, right? Now imagine when you're trying to think of a gaming company, right? And you're trying to run an app install ad for them, because all of these are games. You can create an ad format that is actually playable, right? So you can experience gameplay within the ad itself. So the ad itself is a playable ad. I can maybe share a link after this talk with you. So what we did was we used HTML5 to create some interactive gameplay within the ad. So let's say it's a match 3 game where you're trying to basically match 3 jewels or 3 patterns or 3 rectangles or 3 squares. You could actually play a small teaser of the game within the ad itself, and you would get excited about the game. You'll click on the ad and then you go to the store and you basically install the app, right? So playable ads work beautifully for gaming advertisers, and that is an ad format innovation that happened as late as, let's say, 2017-18, right? So there's always like scope for like ad format innovation. So playable is one that we launched, and InMobi saw great results for that. The reason why we stopped it is because crafting those bespoke playable ads was very, very hard. Effectively, you always needed a developer who would see the gameplay of the actual app and then replicate that gameplay experience. So while there are gaming engines out there through which you can easily create HTML5 games, but still you needed some bespoke work, right? So we used it. The numbers looked very, very exciting, but we had to trash it because it is not as easy as, let's say, creating a banner ad, right? So that happened, right? So there is this another interesting concept that I worked on, which was an interactive video ad. So interactive video ad, and I'll share a beautiful Transformers video. So interactive video ad, the way it works is you are seeing some video and then you can actually interact with it. So the example that I'm going to give you. So the Transformers new movie was coming. The Transformers video is playing. At some point of time in that video, let's say a big explosion has happened, right? Because Transformers are fighting with the villains or whatever, right? And the entire sort of dust has basically, because of that explosion, that dust has come out, and it has settled on your digital screen, right? So your entire screen, your digital screen is covered with dust. And then you can actually, by swipe, you can interact with that video, you can swipe, and that dust goes away, right? And that was a beautiful, exciting ad format, right? So again, all the time there is some exciting innovation happening. You just have to keep your eyes and ears open. There's a lot of interesting ad format innovation that is happening in the Western world. Maybe you should look at some of the other ad networks out there. But some beautiful experiences are getting crafted. Well, that Transformers ad was so mind blowing. The first time I had seen it, my mind was totally blown. Where like literally, it feels like your mobile screen is covered with dust, digital dust, obviously, and then you can actually wipe it off. And from that point, the video has paused at checkpoint. Once you wipe it off, again the video play resumes, right? So things are happening.
Got it. Thanks asking the question, Arun. You can move forward, Anurag.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so moving on to what kind of challenges you face as a publisher. It's happening. Yeah. So the first problem that you face is basically fill rates. This happens. Most of the publishers out there, they have a lot more supply than they can monetize. So for example, think of Hotstar, right? Come IPL season, the IPL inventory is completely sold out, right? Or used to get sold out. Obviously, no longer there on Hotstar. But if you look at some of the other inventory out there, right? So people are watching a lot of daily soaps also on Hotstar, right? And a lot of these soaps are actually Hindi content, which is produced by Star, right? The media house, the parent media house, right? A lot of this content is basically very dreary. At least to me, they are very, very dreary, like very dreary Saas Bahu serials that is being watched relentlessly by, let's say, some women in tier 2 cities, right? So ये रिश्ता क्यों कहलाता है क्योंकि सास भी कभी बहू थी. I don't know all those titles, but some crazy, all those सास बहू serials are being watched, right? And it's contributing a lot of watch time on Hotstar platform, right? Serious amount of content is being watched. Millions of minutes are being spent on Hotstar platform watching that content, but there are no advertisers for it. So even though there's a lot of video content being watched and there are a lot of ad spaces that I want to fill, I cannot fill it because advertisers are not interested in that kind of audience, or they're not interested in targeting that kind of content. Like not interested in targeting users who watch that kind of content, right? So I work at Hotstar in all its glory. The DAOs themselves were like 15 million. Like DAOs were 15 million. I'm not talking MAUs, right? So imagine the amount of watch time that was being spent, like at its peak, like a billion minutes were being watched every day. But yet you could run ads on a very small sliver of that inventory. Typically, that inventory would look like English content being watched from tier 1 cities, right? So if you're watching Game of Thrones, you will see an Apple ad or a Sennheiser ad. But if you're watching Ye Rishta Kya Kehlata Hai, no one is interested in targeting that audience and you're not getting any ads, right? So one big challenge as a publisher is the fill rate. This is what is known as the fill rate, that you had 100 ad spots, but you could fill only, let's say, 10 of them or 20 of them or 30 of them, right? So that is how you basically calculate your fill rates, and that's one of the key challenges you face as a publisher. The second key challenge you face as a publisher is that you want certain kind of ads to be shown on your platform, right? So let's say think of Hotstar, right? So Hotstar wants to onboard only a certain kind of advertiser, right? You let's say you don't want a liquor brand showing their ads on Hotstar, right? Giving you a simple example, right? If I had to give you an even more sort of crude example, you don't want, let's say, a brand that deals in sexual wellness to show their ads on Hotstar, right? Because you're worried. You don't want that kind of stuff coming on your platform, right? So there's a certain amount of premiumness, right, which makes you desirable for a certain class of advertisers. You don't want to dilute it. If you become like an open-ended platform where anyone can come in a self-serve manner, let's say I open up Hotstar as a platform, ki aa jao, you come in, you basically come on my console like you do on Facebook, and you start running ads, right? And you can basically go live immediately just using the self-serve console, right? So Hotstar never used to do that, right? Or even if Hotstar built a self-serve, there was like a mandatory check saying that you can go live only if we review your ads and we are fine with your brand story and we are fine with you as the kind of brand that we want to showcase on our platform, right? So that is one big challenge as a publisher. The third big challenge is limited targeting. So for example, Facebook has all the data in the world, so they can offer you very tight slivers of targeting, saying that, hey, let's say I'm a upcoming D2C shoe brand and I'm available only in Indranagar, and let's say I'm available someplace close by, right? So I'm available in Indranagar and I'm available, let's say, maybe in some other nice spot like HSR or Koramangala, right? And I want to target only people in HSR, Koramangala or Indranagar, right? I want to target even within those pockets. I want to target people who have interest in shoes or maybe in other kind of apparel products, right? So that kind of data scale only a company like Facebook can offer, right? If you come to Hotstar and you tell me that you know what, I'm a D2C shoe brand and I want to do this kind of targeting, I will say that sorry boss, at Hotstar we don't have that kind of data to be able to offer you that kind of targeting, right? So the third big challenge, obviously, so linked to the holy grail, obviously, is that you always face challenges in scaling your audience targeting as a publisher, right? And the fourth big challenge is supply scale. So the fill rate issue and the supply scale issue are both at two different spectrums of the same problem, right? Hotstar has huge supply, but they don't get enough advertising demand to basically fill the ads. On the other side, let's say you are an e-commerce player, let's say you are Make My Trip, and you are also trying to run ads on your platform. Now you are primarily an e-commerce player, right? There's only so much space that you can show ads, right? There's probably some limited space for showing some banner ads, right? You cannot show video ads on your platform. You don't have any space, even though you know video ads are far more premium and will attract a lot more money compared to just simple banner ads, right? But you just don't have space, right? So fill rate is one part of the spectrum where a publisher is a lot of space, but they don't get enough advertising demand. On the other end of the spectrum is players who want to monetize, but they don't have, like, they get a lot of traffic. So Make My Trip gets a lot of traffic. So we have like 30 million MAU, but you don't have space on your website or your app. You don't want to distract your user. Exactly the question that was asked earlier. You don't want to distract or trouble your user too much. Yes, you can use some native ad formats, but that's it. Like where it kind of blends in into your panel and in your screens, but eventually you cannot have an ad sticking out like a sore thumb, right? So these are the kind of different kinds of publishers face these kinds of challenges. The the middle two is kind of faced by pretty much everyone. The first and the third are two different ends of the same spectrum, right? Someone is struggling because there's too much supply. Someone is struggling, saying that, hey, I could potentially scale this big because I have a lot of traffic coming in, but unfortunately, I don't have enough space to run ads. So, like I already covered, but let's talk about specific Hotstar challenges. So, Hotstar challenges, obviously, the fill rate was a big issue, right? So, limited demand. Second problem, data is very, very limited, right? The kind of targeting that you can offer your advertisers is geolocation targeting, which pretty much everyone is doing. To some extent, I can force you to reveal your gender and I can offer some bit of age and gender targeting, or I can try and infer it from the kind of content you watch. So let's say you're watching a lot of Hindi soaps and serials and sitting in some tier 2 city. Maybe I can infer some directionally knowing, so I already have, let's say, some partial data, right, of women watching a lot of, some people have revealed their gender on my platform because I have an optional field saying that, hey, why don't you tell me your gender? Some people end up filling it. And I find some kind of directional causality between women in tier 2 cities watching more Hindi serials, and then I can apply some kind of data science model to scale that entire thing up and say that, and give some kind of gender data coverage, right? So I can maybe offer age and gender targeting. I can offer maybe some bit of geolocation targeting. I can offer obviously content-based targeting that, hey, this is a premium English show, this is a Hindi show, etc. But that's pretty much the spectrum of targeting options that Hotstar could offer. That's pretty much it, right? What else can you get? On a video platform, on a video content platform, you're not obviously going to tell me your income, right? Or tell me your interests, right? Like you do on Facebook, or you're not going to tell, or you're not going to basically tell me your designation that, hey, you know what, I work as a senior manager at so and so different place, right? So it's very, very hard for Hotstar to kind of scale its targeting. There's only so much limited targeting that you can offer to your advertiser. And like I said, Hotstar being Hotstar, when you're trying to be a large, serious publisher, right, and you're trying to be attractive to a lot of large, big brands, right, like PNG, right, or some other large company, right, out there, right. So let's say you're trying to you want Apple to basically advertise on your platform, or a Sennheiser to advertise on your platform. You cannot open up your inventory to the entire world, right? So I can always go out there and maybe integrate with a Google Ad Exchange and say that whosoever wants to run on Hotstar, you come in and you basically configure your ad on Google Ad Exchange, and I'm integrated with Google Ad Exchange. So via Google Ad Exchange, the ads will start running on my platform. But that is not what I want. I want to scale I want to solve my fill rate problem, but I want to be in control of what kind of ads are showing on my platform, right? So while there is a limited demand issue out there, but you cannot just go out there and basically integrate with some other player out there which has a lot of advertising demand coming in, because then you are not in control of your own inventory. And then there is this other problem of there is your own ad sales team going out there and selling your ad spots, right? So if you open it out to a third party partner, to an ad exchange, then everyone will say that there is no need for us to basically work with your sales guys and pay you a premium. I might as well buy that inventory of an ad exchange and basically run ads from there, right? So these were the challenges for Hotstar. Any questions at this point? I'm happy to kind of stop and take any questions if there.
Yeah, I think we have 3 participants. Let's start with Bhargava. Over to you.
So Anurag, I'm just curious. We are just seeing in the lens of bringing revenue to Hotstar in terms of ad tech, right? So why don't
Yeah.
you focus on promoting the users to buy the subscription of Hotstar? Any specific reason? Because it's like in-app advertising, right? Rather than advertising the external providers, advertise your own platform to buy the Hotstar subscription, right?
Yeah. Great questions. See, every company out there is basically trying to kind of again balance this barbell of subscriptions and ad tech revenue, right? Ad tech revenue helps you monetize those users who are never going to buy a subscription, or at least it lets you monetize users who probably need some time before they upgrade to a subscription, right? But like I said, with AdTech revenue, the problem is, see, you have built a platform out there. So many billions of minutes of content is being watched. You cannot just let these users go free, right? That, hey, you know what? I'm serving a billion. I'm serving millions of users. I need to make some money off them, right? Now I know that the subscription funnel is broken, right? Only a very small percentage of users who come to my flock to my platform will eventually end up signing up for a subscription. But if you were to compare subscription revenue with ads revenue, subscription revenue is good revenue. Why? Because the user has bought it for a fair period of time. Let's say he has bought an annual subscription. So I know that the guy is going to be sticky with me for the next 12 months, right? Secondly, I'm now once he has bought a subscription, I'm not irritating this user with ads. So his chances is, and given that he's already bought a subscription, his chances of leaving my platform and going to, let's say, Netflix or let's say Sony Live is very, very low, right? So subscription revenue is actually good revenue. The problem with subscription revenue is it does not scale. If 1 million users are coming to my platform, I will find only probably 1% of them actually signing up for a subscription. Rest 99% will go away, right? And I need a way to monetize those users also, right? Hence, I'm running ads. Now, coming to the question of why I'm running in-house ads, because my fill rates are low. I already have a lot of ad spaces that are going a begging. I'm not able to fill them with regular advertisers content. So whatever space is left, I'm running my in-house ads to basically try and entice the user, showcase the diversity of my platform, and try to entice the user to sign up for a subscription.
Okay,
So
this is interesting. I just have a follow-up question.
yeah.
So, to monetize the unsubscribed users, did you ever try with the content exclusiveness? Let's say Sazbahu show, let's say one serial is there, and which is not available on daily TV shows.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
if you tried out of making the content so exclusive that it's only available in Hotstar, what was the conversion percentage? You remember any numbers, and how did you work it out?
See, content exclusiveness is always very, very important if you're trying to get the user to sign up for a subscription, right? For example, since IPL was there, I forget anything else, right? IPL was obviously exclusive to Hotstar and Star. If you wanted to watch, sorry, if you wanted to watch IPL, you had to be on Hotstar, right? So obviously, we used to use IPL as a showstopper, right? Like in a fashion show, there is a showstopper. So similarly, there is always hero content, right? So we used to use IPL as a showcase to say that, hey, you know what, sign up for a subscription, right? But the problem with that is that people are signing up for only 3 month subscriptions, right? Obviously, you want to give flexibility to your users if they are not willing to sign up for a 1,000 rupee subscription for the entire year, you want to kind of at least entice them with a subscription for 3 months that, hey, you know what, pay only 299 rupees for 3 months of subscription and watch IPL on my platform, right? So there are always numerous permutations and combinations, right? So you try to get hero content on your platform, exclusive hero content on your platform to try and get subscribers. But then again, it's not easy, right? It's not like I have hero content on my platform, so I can price my 3-month premium subscription at, let's say, 3,000 rupees. That's not going to happen. And also understand that content production costs are very, very expensive, right? Like just the IPL rights for 5 years for Hotstar I think cost 16,000 crores, right? So when you're trying to use hero content as a strategy to basically attract customers, the maths still needs to work out, right? The content production cost or the cost that you're incurring for that content needs to be subsumed by the subscriptions that you're getting, right? And typically that does not work in a market like India, right? Where you have to, I'll give you a very, very clear example here, right? So Netflix for the longest time had a SVOD strategy. So SVOD, what is SVOD? SVOD is subscription video on demand. Netflix never used to run ads. Netflix always had a SVOD strategy because they were a West first player, they were a US first player, right? So in US, Netflix has never run ads, right? And they only have offered subscriptions for the entire duration of their existence, and they have made good money out of it, right? And they follow this hero content strategy, that the kind of diversity of content that you would find on Netflix would not be found elsewhere. And they were able to achieve that balance by just having a pure subscription strategy in US. When they came to India, no one signed up for their subscriptions, right? Till the time they stayed a subscription only player in India, they were a very small player. Eventually, what they did, they first launched a mobile only plan, right? And they priced it really, really low. And then eventually, even after that, they realized that it's not going to play out. So now they have started running ads, right? So different markets, different strategies. When you are playing in a market like India, my simple take on this is that no one has cracked subscriptions in India till date. No one. You have to have a mix of what we call as SVOD, which is subscription video on demand, plus AVOD, which is advertising video on demand. It has to be a nice balance between SVOD and AVOD. Only then you will be able to solve for the content production cost plus the additional cost of basically distributing your content on this app to millions of audience. Obviously, there are server costs. Just the fact that you're running video content on a CDN, and CDNs typically come very, very expensive. I believe just the CDN bills for Hotstar were upwards of millions of dollars. Just the CDN bills were upwards of millions of dollars. Like Akamai was billing Hotstar millions of dollars every year. So it's not easy. And given that you can only price your subscription at, like, say, 999 rupees for the entire 12 months, it's no, at least I have not seen the economics work out in it.
So Anurag, okay, sorry, I'm just taking a bit of time, but
like, sorry to cut you. We have to move towards the next people, please.
yeah, I'll just type it out. Oh, I think we don't have chat.
We have chat. I just saw your chat. Okay. Over to you, Sunanda. You have a question to ask.
Yes. So I wanted to ask, plugins such as ad blocks, is that not big enough of a challenge? Or
sorry, just repeat the question again.
Yeah, so plugins such as ad blocks, is that not big enough of a challenge for publisher here? Or
not really. Ad blocks are not really a challenge, and a lot of publishers are very smart. They say that, hey, if you want to use our website or app, you have to turn off the ad blocker. That's a pretty straightforward thing.
Okay.
You can easily detect what kind of plugins the user is using. In any case, 99% of the demographic is not even aware that you can use an ad blocker, right? Most of the like, other than people in the tech industry who spend most of these users think about watchmen, think about cab drivers who are watching a lot of content on YouTube, on Hotstar. Do they know how to turn ad blocks on? Obviously not, right? And even if they turn on the ad blocker, there is a way to find out that what kind of plugins or what kind of extensions the user is using. And you can force the user to say that, you know what, if you want to watch my content, or if you want to spend time reading content on my website or app, you have to turn off the ad blocker. That is easily doable.
Okay.
Priyanka, over to you.
Yeah. So, Anurag, I had a question around the no intent data challenge that you mentioned here for Hotstar. I was just wondering if there was any data enrichment effort that was undertaken. And the another question, follow-up question I have is, do you think that because of the kind of users that you have for Hotstar, and they're just about establishing the digital presence, was it difficult to acquire if there was any attempt at all for that?
So I understood the first part of the question very, very clearly. The second part of the question, these are early users who are starting their digital journey. So, so what was the exact question around it?
So I was just wondering that the target users that or the current users that you have for Hotstar who probably are from tier 2 or tier 3 cities, so
Yeah, yeah.
consuming the kind of content that you have, right? So they're only just about establishing the digital presence. Do you
Correct,
think
correct.
that data management for that kind of users is a challenge, or how was
Yeah,
that?
yeah, it is.
Was
Yeah, so I'll cover both aspects. So like I said, we did not try to get, so two parts of data enrichment. One part is obviously trying to basically merge your first party data with some third party data and try to build some detailed audiences out of it, right? So there are a lot of, I don't know whether you guys are aware, but there are a lot of data brokers out there that say that, hey, you know what, if you give me a device ID or a user ID, I will be able to tell you what kind of segments this user falls into, right? I can give you a few names. So for example, there is a data broker out there called BlueKai, which is owned by Oracle. Or there's another data broker out there called Lotami that again does the same thing, right? So in ad space, given that audiences are very, very important, there are data brokers out there that do this for a living, and that's their business model. But we never kind of ventured in that direction, right? Because once if you try and join your first party data with their third party data, there is chance that your first party data might get leaked. So the way that system works is that you give me your first party data, I will give you the rest of the data points, and then it becomes like a collective sort of data segments that I can then sell to other users, right? So we never ventured in that direction of trying to fuse our first party data with third party data. What we definitely did was ways to get more information out of the user, right? So maybe again taking that same example, let's say you are binge watching a series, right? And I know that come what may, you will complete today, right? Watching all the episodes of this particular season. So then I can maybe show you a blocker in between, and I will not let you progress further until unless you answered a few questions for me, right? So as a PM, your job is to somehow figure out a way as to how do you get more detailed data out of this user. For example, if I can find things like, do you own a car, or what kind of electronics brands do you own, right? And that kind of information, if I get off you, then I can basically package you as an affluent tier 1 city user, right? And then sell those audience packages to my advertisers, right? So to try and find ways of getting more data out of it, out of your user. Or the second way is, like I said, like if a small percent, if certain percentage of your users have, let's say, given me your data, right? So for example, like the example that I took earlier, that if I have some percentage of my users have revealed to me that they are male or female. Now, and those male and female users, I also know what their viewing habits are. So then for users for whom I don't have the gender information, I can build data science models based on the data set that I have, that, hey, these users have declared themselves as male and they watch this kind of content. This kind of content genres, they probably watch, let's say, action movies, or they watch English content more, or they are watching, let's say, some kind of premium content. And then for users who again are watching similar kind of content, I can infer with some kind of data science based probability or inference that these users are probably also likely male, right? So those kinds of data science models, obviously we scale to try and add more coverage. Now you may ask that how is then the advertiser confident that this guy is truly male or female, right? So then there are third party audience providers, which what you do is you deliver the campaign for the advertiser, and then there's a third party, think of it almost like a third party audit, which tells the advertiser that Hotstar claimed that they showed 1 million impressions to male audiences. Out of these 1 million impressions, actually 900,000 impressions were actually shown to male audiences, rest 100,000 were actually female audiences. So the advertisers basically rely on these third party kind of audits. I don't want to go into details of those, but there are third party companies out there, trackers out there, that tell the advertisers directly also that whatever Hotstar is claiming, is it true or not. right? And the sort of the entire premise of the campaign was that you have to maintain a certain accuracy with respect to your gender information, right? With respect to the kind of targeting that you are purporting that you are delivering to me, right? So if I'm claiming that, hey, I'm delivering this campaign to females between 25 to 34 years of age, the advertiser will rely on a third party audit company to actually say that, hey, Hotstar actually did that. So if I'm claiming 1 million impressions, if it is 9,000 impressions, it's fine because it is still 90% accuracy. But if it is 1 million impressions and 5,000 turned out to be female, when I claim male, then it's a problem. Then advertiser will not pay me any money. So that's part one. Part two is the question that you asked. Is these are early users in their digital journey. So where advertisers interested in targeting them? The simple answer is no. No advertiser likes to target tier 2 cities, vernacular platforms, which is why you find all these companies like Daily Hunt, right, which deals in vernacular content, or other websites like Dainik Jagran, right, Dainik Bhaskar. Vernacular AdTech business is very, very low because advertisers today understand that those consumers are still not at a life stage where they can spend a lot of money on discretionary products. So advertisers in general don't like spending on vernacular audiences in tier 2, tier 3 cities, which is why fill rates on Hotstar were also low, and which is why all the vernacular publishers out there have not been able to build a serious ads business yet. Any vernacular, be it some, let's say, Malayalam Manorama, right? So vernacular in Malayalam, right? Or let's say a Hindi vernacular publisher, they are not able to get a lot of ads demand because advertisers are not interested in running ads for those kinds of audiences.
Thanks, Anurag. Prabhat have question, but Prabhat, just wait a few minutes. We'll come back to you.
I think the way we are going, we are already at 8:30. This will go well past 10 if we continue like this. It will definitely go till 9:30. I am willing. I can do it, but I'm not sure if others are available. So because we are still on the first half of the first case study only, and the second case study is also there. So I don't know. Like, I'm happy to answer questions. I'm willing to stick around provided you guys are.
Anurag, I think what we can do, we can kind of complete 20 minutes, 25 minutes जितना हो पाता है, and better to complete that, then we can take the question afterwards. And whosoever has the question, they can stay here at the end, right? So we can at least complete the case studies that you have. I think that's more interesting.
Yeah. So let me try and complete because others might be patiently waiting, right? So let me do it. Okay. And I'll take the questions at the end. All right.
Sure.
Yeah. What is it? Sorry, one second. All right. So we understood the problems of Hotstar, right? So low fill rate, audience is a problem, and obviously you want to continue to be premium, right? So you can't partner with DSP or ad exchange. So then the answer is that if I have to harness a lot more advertising demand out there, right? And there's only so much demand that I'm able to sell directly to the advertisers and tell them that, hey, come and basically advertise on Hotstar. The natural answer is, who can I partner with, right? Is there a way to basically access a lot more advertising demand through some other partner, right? So let's see how right. So obviously, given that, sorry, I don't know what's happening, right? So given that we have problems with audiences, obviously we need a partner that is significantly data rich, which has a lot more information on its consumers than let's say a video player ever would have, right? Sorry, my PowerPoint is misbehaving. Yeah. The second bit we need is, if the player is data rich, then they should be able to monetize their own website or app, right? So why would they partner with me? Then the answer to that is that that particular player has to be supply poor. It needs to be a player which has a lot of data but does not have enough space on its own website or app to run those ads. And third thing, obviously, like I said, I'm not willing to go out there and integrate with the Google Ad Exchange. So I want to work with a partner which is a serious brand, which works with premium brands, right? And potentially has access to can potentially unlock access to really high-end advertisers. So what do you think? So I would rather throw a question this time. So who do you think Hotstar can partner with? What kind of companies come to your mind? Given that this is the requirement.
Yeah, Prabhat, over to you.
Could be premium demand.
Yeah, premium demand is basically you want like really blue chip companies, right? So like I said, right, the Proctors and Gambles of the world or the Hush Puppies of the world, stuff like that. So if Hotstar had to partner with someone to unlock a lot more advertising demand, and the vectors or the attributes of a partner like this would look like the partner should be data rich, the partner should be supply poor, because if they can monetize their own supply, then why would they partner with me? And they should be a serious brand who has access to companies like P&G, HULs, Hush Puppies of the world. Who do you think, what kind of companies come to your mind in an Indian context? Come to your mind in an Indian context? Perfect. So the answer was horizontal e-commerce firms, right? And that is what we did. We partnered with Flipkart and we built this ad platform out there, right? Now, what did we build, right? So what did the final integration look like? The final integration, and this might seem like a anticlimactic end, but it's not the end. There are more layers to this. So what is happening? Let me complete the story, right? So Flipkart has a lot of audience information, right? So there are a lot of consumers out there who are buying electronics, who are buying white goods, who are buying groceries, who are buying tons of stuff, right? And they have a lot of audience information, user information about the users and what kind of products. Just 1 second. Charge it. So Flipkart was a natural partner for us. Amazon could have been a partner as well, right? So what Flipkart had instead, the problem they had was they had a lot of data, but they did not have space to run on their to run ads on their website or app, right? So effectively, what ended up happening was Flipkart kind of became a reseller of Hotstar's video ad supply, right? So what would happen? An advertiser. So Flipkart built a console out there where advertiser could come and onboard their ads. Now we built a custom integration with Flipkart. So advertiser would onboard their ad campaign on Flipkart. Flipkart would then pass on that. Now, and when they're onboarding their ad campaign, they would say things like that, hey, I want to target emerging new mothers, or I want to target people who buy a lot of electronics. That kind of audience information only Flipkart has, right? So advertiser is able to onboard his ad campaign on Flipkart. Then those ads eventually are being run on Hotstar, right? So the campaign is being created there, but the campaign delivery is happening on Hotstar. So they're uploading the video ad, they're setting the targeting information, etc., etc. Then between Flipkart and Hotstar, there is a custom integration where Hotstar, whenever a user is launching the Hotstar app and watching some video content, we are sending an ad request to Flipkart. Flipkart then sees that, okay, this is the same user for which I find that this user falls as an in the electronics enthusiast audience segment that the advertiser is looking for, right? So again, let me kind of simplify. When the Hotstar app is launched, I send an ad request to Flipkart saying that this is the user who has launched the app. Based on the information that I have sent to Flipkart, Flipkart then looks at its own data data insights for this particular user and finds that this user is an electronics enthusiast. Now, given that he's an electronics enthusiast, there is an ad campaign configured on Flipkart which says that, which is, let's say, a Sennheiser ad, where Sennheiser is looking to target an electronics enthusiast with its latest set of headphones, right? So Flipkart then sends back the ad to Hotstar saying that I am willing to run an ad on this particular user on this particular ad spot. It sends back a video ad. Then Hotstar gets that ad, wrangles it, parses it, and then basically adds that video ad into the feed, into the video stream that the user is watching, and then the ad is being shown to the user, right? So it's a win-win for both Flipkart and Hotstar because Flipkart is able to use its data to basically unlock, it is able to use its data and is able to unlock a lot of supply that it did not have access to. It had no space to run ads on its website. So the logical thing to do is go to a partner who has a lot of space, and that space that partner became Hotstar. For Hotstar, it was the reverse problem: lot of space, not enough data information. So partner with Flipkart. So it became a win-win for both Flipkart and Hotstar, and it's a win for advertiser also, because advertiser is looking for video inventory that it cannot get on Flipkart, but still advertiser wants a lot of focused targeting that only Flipkart can offer. So it's a win for advertiser also. So this is how the full integration sort of came together. So this is what we did, and this is how this is how a publisher like Hotstar can scale advertising demand. This is how a player like Flipkart, which has serious aspirations in AdTech space but does not have enough supply, can actually again scale its ads revenue. So this is what it looked like. Okay. I'll quickly, now I'll add more layers to this. This is a very simplistic view again. So is this the final picture? No. Why? So what is Hotstar trying to do here? What do you think? Is this the end stage? Should Hotstar end here, or can Hotstar go one better? Any ideas?
So
Anyone? Yeah.
Hotstar should be able to be loyal to Flipkart by showing intent of the user to buy the product in the Hotstar app itself. Let's say a user has an intent to buy a Philips trimmer. So on the click, it has to redirect to Flipkart rather than going to Amazon. So redirection is the key point for me
No.
because
See, redirection is not the key point. The Flipkart is just helping add the data on the user, right? But the advertiser is Sennheiser, or advertiser is Bose. Bose is trying to run its ads for headsets, or an Apple is trying to run ads for its latest iPhone, or Pampers is trying to run ads for baby products, right? So eventual advertiser is Pampers. Flipkart is only telling the advertiser that, hey, I'm trying to show these ads to a user which tends to buy a lot of baby products through me. And the ad is eventually running on Hotstar. But the ad that is running on Hotstar is a Pampers ad. It's not a Flipkart ad. Got it?
got it.
So the Pampers ad will take the user to Pampers website or the Pampers app, not Flipkart.
Got it.
Got it.
So yeah, so the intent, I mean, here Hotstar can take a flip of share from Flipkart because he's sending a highly intent user who tries to buy Pampers to Flipkart, right? So possibly that can be a growth lever for them.
That also we can do. We can send the user back to the Pampers brand store on Flipkart, right? Pampers is a dedicated brand store on Flipkart, so we can send him there. But the question that I'm asking is this where Hotstar should stop, or can Hotstar do one better?
I think it can do better by learning more about the intent of the more and more users over the period of time. So, like by this knowledge of building intent of more and more users, Hotstar can optimize more on running the more relevant ads
Great,
for their
great.
audience by combining the
That's
intelligence
definitely
of both.
something that we had planned to do. I left Hotstar before that, but that's a great point. We had planned to do something like that, because if Flipkart is running baby ads products for this particular user, then I know for sure that this user falls in the baby products interest audience bucket, right? So that's a great point. That's a great point. That's a wonderful point. Anything else you guys can think of?
Arun also has some point to share.
I'm also doing an educated guess here, Anurag. Maybe Hotstar tied up with Flipkart to get the understanding of the user on the e-commerce side, right? Like to understand the behavior in commerce. But there are a lot more use cases that a consumer can basically spend on, right? Like to understand payment behavior of the consumer in some or the other way. Maybe
Perfect,
directly with
Arun.
other horizontal kind of
You have
companies, right?
solved it. So that's what we did. But I think the final answer is a little more simplistic than that. I'll show you in the next diagram. So the first and foremost thing is that we integrated with Flipkart. So obviously our fill rates improved a bit, right? But obviously you are trying to improve your fill rates as much as possible, right? So you want what do you want? What you want is, let's say an advertiser partners with like onboards his campaign on Flipkart, and eventually I give access to my supply that, hey, through Flipkart, this advertiser can run ads on Hotstar. But what I can also do is another advertiser who Nykaa has its own sort of ads management tool, and Nykaa also has that same problem as Flipkart. They have a lot of data about the user, but they don't have place to run ads, right? So again, I can integrate Nykaa also with Hotstar, right? Then again, I can maybe partner with Reliance Agio. So I partner with a cosmetics player. I can now partner with an apparel player, and again, I can integrate and I can give access to my supply to Reliance Agio also, right? So what I'm doing is basically I'm unlocking a lot of demand through a lot of third party, through a lot of players, and all of them have the same problem. They are data rich but supply poor. So what I'm building out here is basically, if you look at this layer, if you can see my pointer, I forgot to add a box out here. If I'm building what I'm building here, if I build a box here, what I'm building is a private ad exchange. I am giving access to my supply to all the serious players with whom I want to partner with. And all of these players have the same problem, that they want to scale their advertising business, but they don't have enough space to run those ads. So what Hotstar is doing here is basically building an ad exchange, a private ad exchange, where Flipkart, Nykaa, Reliance IGO can compete for the same user, and they can try and outbid each other. Understood? So very similar to how on Google you basically put in a bid. Flipkart, Nykaa, Reliance Agio, or let's say a user has come in, launched the app, and let's say this guy is a very premium user, watches Game of Thrones. He lives in, let's say, South Mumbai, the most posh locality in Mumbai, or South Delhi. And now Flipkart, Nykaa, Agio, all three of these players are interested in running ads on this user because they have a bunch of advertiser campaigns configured on their dashboard, right? So now what I can do is I can get Flipkart, Nykaa, Reliance Agio to compete for the same user by putting in their bids, and whosoever puts in the highest bid gets that user and gets to run ad on my platform. So what Hotstar is trying to do is trying to build an ad exchange. And obviously attendant to that is the second point that all you guys pointed out, that if I integrate with more players, I get more interesting user insights, and I can use that ad meta information, whatever is being run on my platform, to infer more details about the user and build those audience segments myself. Clear? Clear, not clear, confusion?
Yeah, it is clear.
Yeah, it's clear.
Clear.
All right. So this is Hotstar's perspective, but this is still not the final picture. There's still picture abhi bhi baki hai. So let's look at the other picture. And then obviously, sorry. So this is a small point that obviously there's third party demand coming from Flipkart, Nykaa, Reliance Agio, but then obviously my direct demand is also there, which my ad sales team are going out there and basically selling. That's a small point, but yeah, so that pipe is also there, right? So, but this is still not the final picture. There's still one more layer to it. So let's look at that. So now you looked at this entire AdTech case study from Hotstar's perspective. Now let's try and see what Flipkart is trying to do. Okay, so Flipkart is there. And obviously it is trying to onboard a lot of advertisers on its platform. Okay. What do you think Flipkart is trying to do? So Flipkart obviously partnered with Hotstar. Are we stopping Flipkart from partnering with others? No. So obviously Hotstar can onboard a lot of partners who can give, all of them can give access to advertising demand to Hotstar. Similarly, Flipkart can also do the same thing. Flipkart can partner with Hotstar for supply, but Flipkart can also partner with, let's say, Netflix for supply. And Flipkart can also partner with Lonely Planet for supply and Sony Live for supply, right? So Hotstar is trying to build an ad exchange. What Flipkart is trying to do is trying to become a demand side partner for a lot of supply players, because Flipkart has less supply. Hotstar is trying to gain demand. Flipkart is trying to gain supply. So similar to how Flipkart partnered with Hotstar and we built an integration pipe where Hotstar would send an ad request to Flipkart, and Hotstar would also send an ad request to Reliance Agio, and Hotstar will also try to send an ad request to, let's say, Nykaa. Same Flipkart, what it is trying to do is Flipkart is telling Netflix, you also send your supply to me. To Lonely Planet also, it's saying, you also send your supply to me. And what Flipkart is trying to do is by getting access to a lot more supply, it can onboard a lot more advertisers than it ever could, right? So Hotstar is trying to build an ad exchange. What Flipkart is trying to build is a demand DSP. It is called a demand side. DSP is basically a demand side player or a demand side partner. So Flipkart is trying to become a demand side player for a lot of large publishers out there. Clear?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and that is how Flipkart has become a very, very serious player in advertising. It's not by running ads on its own website and app. It has become a serious player in advertising by monetizing its audience data and partnering with a lot of large marquee big supply partners. I think I forgot to put that slide on Flipkart's revenue, but you can look it up on Google. It has scaled significantly. Now I'll just briefly cover some kind of some challenges that I faced when I was trying to build this at Hotstar. Again, you don't have to go into the technical details of this. I'm just kind of covering it cursorily so that you understand if you're trying to build a video ad exchange or a video ad exchange, what kind of challenges you will run into. So the first problem was obviously for me, the first problem was in-house versus third-party demand, right? So for example, like I showed you in this slide also, right? Sorry, let's go back a little bit. There is in-house demand that is also there on Hotstar that my ad sales team has basically partnered directly with the advertiser and told them, you run your ads. Let's say we are partnered with Dream11. So Dream11 ads need to be shown. And then I have also partnered with Flipkart, right? And I have certain kind of commitment to Dream11 that I will deliver so many millions of impressions for your ad. And then I have certain kind of commitment to Flipkart also, right? So how do I ensure that? And then these two are coming at different pricing, right? Sometimes the in-house demand is, let's say in-house demand is coming at 300 rupees cost per 1,000 impressions. Flipkart, depending on the advertiser, right? It is dynamic. Some advertisers are paying, let's say 500 rupees cost per 1,000 impressions, right? Depending on the bid that Flipkart submitted real time to me. Some advertisers are, let's say, giving only 200, right? So how do I do that trade-off? How do I figure out that should I run my in-house demand on this ad slot, or should I, if third-party demand is also there and in-house demand is also there for the same ad slot for the same kind of user, how do I trade off between these two? Now, how I did that, I'm not going to cover the details of that, but I just want to let you guys know that that is a problem to be solved. Okay. Second problem is, how will Flipkart know that it's, how does Flipkart know, right? So what kind of user IDs I'm passing on to Flipkart, right? Because Flipkart has its own data store, which tells it that, okay, this particular user ID is an electronics buyer, but I'm not using the same user IDs, right? Their version of, they might have an own internal user ID system, right? Hotstar has its own internal user ID system. So how do you match the user? How will you match the user, right? So there has to be some common ID, right? That both Hotstar is using and Flipkart is using. So the answer to this one is pretty straightforward. The answer to this one is that there is an advertising identifier that is very, very common in the AdTech industry. It is powered by the OS itself. So both Android and iOS have a common identifier. Like for every user out there, they have an identifier. On iOS, it is called IDFA, which is full form for identifier for advertisers. IDFA is called identifier for advertisers. And similarly on Android, there is this construct called advertising ID. So this is a very standard construct in the ad tech industry, that if who is the user, you on Android, you use advertising ID, and on iOS, you use IDFA. But there was one small sort of additional complexity here, that as Hotstar, we didn't want to leak our advertising IDs and IDFAs to Flipkart. So what we did was we built like a, what do we call it? We built some kind of, I just lost that word suddenly in between. We built some kind of hashing logic, right? So you take the raw advertising ID, you jumble it by applying some kind of hashing logic. And we told Flipkart that we'll be using, let's say, SHA-1 hashing logic. You use that same SHA-1 hashing logic, you match it so that you don't get to know that you don't see the raw advertising ID from us, right? So that is what we did. The third big problem was that how do I make sure that the ad playbacks, remember these are video ads, and these are like 6 second, 7 second, 10 second, 15-second video ads. So they are heavy. Now, if I was getting this video ad from my, I can still do a lot of optimization. I can make sure that the video ad is playing really, really seamlessly, right? Like there is no buffering, nothing. But now if I'm getting this ad real time from Flipkart, like when the ad spot is going to happen, at that time I'm telling Flipkart, hey, send me an ad, and Flipkart is sending me, right? There's a lot of back and forth internet communication that is happening. How do I make sure that the ad playback is happening really? Then the ad will come. Then I will actually start downloading the ad, right? Because the MP4 file needs to be downloaded for the ad. So how do I make sure that the ad playback is happening seamlessly, and it should not happen that the regular content is playing without buffering, but when the ad came, the loader started loading, right? So there was an ad playback issue also in this particular case, which we solved by prefetching the ad. You can just look it up on the internet. This concept is called header bidding. So you kind of run a pre-bid. You run a pre-bid. You know that there are like 3 ad spots going to happen in the future. So you run a pre-bid. You tell Flipkart that, hey, I might need 3 ads. You send me the ads, and then I will cache it on my local sort of backend service. And when the actual ad spot comes, then I'll fetch it directly from my local cache. I will not hit Flipkart just in time. So those kinds of optimizations that you have to do to make sure that the ad works fine. I'm sorry, I'm going through the technical pieces a little more fast because maybe some of it might not be interesting. If any of you are interested in understanding more details, you can reach out to me later also. I will explain it to you. The final bit is, let's say I told Flipkart that, hey, you asked for 1,000 impressions from me. I have shown this ad 1,000 times to different users. How does Flipkart know that I'm telling the truth? How do you think advertisers know, or how do you think Flipkart in this case would know, given that effectively for me Flipkart is the advertiser? How does an advertiser know that the publisher, whatever publisher is claiming, hey, you asked for 1 million impressions, I gave 1 million impressions? How do they know that I'm telling the truth?
Bhargav, over to you.
Yeah, to the
Sorry?
similar logic, what you mentioned of having an audit partner,
Correct.
so we'll be doing the job.
So in this case, what happens is they don't need an audit partner when they send the ad now. So they also send their own trackers. So every time the video plays, not only I have to fire my trackers, I have to fire their trackers also. The reason why for gender information they need a third-party audit partner is because in a lot of cases they themselves don't have gender information, so they need to rely on someone else. But in this case, what happens typically in the AdTech industry, what happens is the actual advertiser might be sitting 5 orders of degree away from the from the eventual publisher, the publisher, and there might be like 10 intermediaries in between. So what happens is every intermediary, this is again a very standard construct in AdTech, every intermediary adds its own tracker. So every time a video ad is played, all the trackers, all the 10 trackers will be fired. So everyone gets to see their own independent statistics. What is a tracker? A tracker is nothing but a URL. So like when you hit a website, Google Analytics automatically shows them that this website was visited 10 times, right? Similar to that, it is just a website URL. It's a simple URL, but instead of rendering a website, all it does is it increases the counter in the database, right? So it's simple HTTP URL. When the video ad is played, the final publisher also has to take care of making sure that all the trackers are getting executed or all the URLs are being hit. When those URLs are hit, all of those intermediaries and the advertiser gets to see the count, and therefore they can independently audit it. If the count was not executed, that means you have not delivered the impressions. So we had to make sure that the Flipkart tracker, everything, all of those things were done. Plus, Flipkart also had a bunch of third-party trackers also. So that also we had to make sure that we had executed, right? So all these challenges were there, which I had to solve. There were a lot of more complicated challenges also. We had a very custom setup at Hotstar, not going into the details of those. So building that ad exchange with the constraint of that custom setup at Hotstar was very, very tricky, but somehow, thankfully, we were able to find a solution. So broadly, these were the challenges, and this is how we solved it. Correct. That is what I was wondering, that I had that slide, right? So what Flipkart did with Hotstar, Amazon already does it, and at scale. The reason why Amazon is a serious player in ads is because they have their own DSP out there, which they have integrated with multiple publishers. And a lot of people, when think of Amazon ads business, they think, oh, they are running these sponsored ads on their website, right? And they are running these brand stores for which they are charging, let's say, Xiaomi or whatever X dollars. But the reason why Amazon is a serious player in ads is because they have a DSP. And let me just kind of highlight it out there, so much so that, in fact, that the AdTech known as a demand side platform has become a focal point of conversations Amazon ad execs have with advertisers in recent weeks, right? So the reason why Amazon is a serious player in ads is not because of in-house ads. Yes, in-house ads, and because of a lot of intent data that they have because you're searching on Amazon, but also because they have this Amazon DSP through which they're able to run ads on other publishers. The tech giant is trying to persuade advertisers to use its ad tech to buy ads from other publishers, not just on its own media. If you do only your own media, you will not be able to scale beyond the point, right? So this kind of wraps up the first case study. Now, maybe I can take a few. I don't know what's the time. We are already way beyond time, but I can take maybe a question or two, and then we can jump into the second case. The second case study is much easier. It's probably more obvious, but yeah.
Yeah, I think over to people. They can raise hands if anyone have any questions for Anurag. Seems like people already asked the question that they already have. Yeah, Bhargav.
All right. I hope
one
I have not
question.
put you guys to sleep. I thought. I hope this was useful.
No, Anurag, this is definitely interesting. So one question is that there's a lot of data being moving from one place to another, right? So how did you manage to keep it in a live manner? Because a lot of data flow here from there, it's of high volume, right? It
Yes.
impacts the performance of both the streaming device and also how do you keep it on live and also be committed to the timelines what you're trying to commit to for the Flipkart or any other publisher?
Yeah. So if I have to go into details of that then I have to tell you details of video encoding, because the ad itself is also video. So you have to optimize the video encoding. Maybe you can look up HLS video encoding and dash video encoding, right? So how you encode. Then, like I said, I was not getting the ads real time. Like I know that, hey, next millisecond the ad space is going to come up. So now I will hit Flipkart and get the ad. What I was doing was I was pre-fetching the ad. So at the beginning of the content playback, I already know that there are 5 ad spots in future. Now the user might progress through all the 5 ad spots. Maybe maybe he or she may not. But I want to be sure that given there are 5 ad spots in future, I want to, as soon as you start the content playback, now let's say after 10 minutes there is an ad spot, right? At the point you start the content playback, I will hit the Flipkart server and tell them give me 5 ads. And then when the ad spot will come, I already have the ad prefetched and I've saved it on my servers and I have video encoded in a way so that it is optimal. Then when the ad spot comes, I can immediately show it from my server because it is already cached at my server. And that entire round trip of hitting Flipkart and getting the ad back was already done when you started the content stream itself.
Okay, got it. Understood.
Right. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do to basically optimize it. I just covered a few, but yeah.
Yeah, it is a bit of beta. Yes, yes.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
Forward, yeah, correct.
All right, moving on. So again, the reason why I covered this case study was because people just don't think of off-app. I can show you other aspects also. For example, you can look up Facebook audience network. Like Facebook, even though it has so much supply in-house, it still runs ads on third parties. And 99% of the internet audience out there does not even know that a product like this exists. It is called Facebook audience network, right? So even though they're tremendous, but still their ad load is very high, right? So if they're trying to reduce ads on their in-house and still want to make sure that, see, ultimately they have pressure to grow ads revenue year on year, right? So there is only so much loading they can do on their own website, on Instagram, on Facebook, on a bunch of Facebook Messenger, etc., right? So even they monetize third-party supply. So just go look it up. But it's so the basic construct is I am supply poor, I will partner with someone to get the supply. I am demand poor, I will partner with someone to get the demand. And you find partners according to their unique strengths. That's a very common concept in AdTech, but most of the people don't know it. So I just wanted to cover that. Okay, quickly we'll move on to